Have you ever opened a book in English and then closed it after just one page because it felt too hard? Have you ever felt that English is not for you? That maybe your brain is not fast enough? That maybe others can learn, but you cannot? I know this feeling. It is heavy. It makes you tired before you even begin. But what if I tell you something simple, something powerful, something that can change everything for you? This is not just about a book. This is about a new way of learning, a way that feels natural, a way that feels human, a way that makes English come alive inside you, slowly, gently, and then strongly. Today, I will show you how one simple book can improve your English faster than you think, not by force, not by pressure, but by feeling, repetition, and daily connection. Comment if you've ever felt this way. And if you stay with me until the end, you will not just learn English, you will feel it, you will think in it, and you will become someone who uses English every day without fear. Chapter 1. The day you stop fighting English. There was a day, a very quiet day, when I stopped fighting English. Before that day, everything felt like a battle. Every word was a problem. Every sentence was a struggle. I used to sit with my book and feel tired after just a few minutes. My eyes moved on the page, but my mind did not move with them. I was reading, but I was not understanding. And slowly, I started to believe something very dangerous. I started to believe that English was not for me. Maybe you have felt this too. You open a book and you see so many new words. Your heart becomes heavy. Your mind says, "This is too hard." And then you close the book. Not because you are lazy, but because your brain feels pain. Learning feels like pressure, and pressure makes us run away. But something changed for me. Not suddenly, not like magic. It was a small change, a quiet decision. I remember looking at a simple English book. Not a big book, not a difficult one, just a small book with easy sentences. And I told myself something very simple. I said, I will not fight this book. I will sit with it like a friend. That moment changed everything. Because the truth is, English is not your enemy. English is not here to test you. English is not here to make you feel small. English is just a language. And language is meant to be felt, not forced. When you fight English, your brain closes. When you relax with English, your brain opens. This is the first secret. You do not need to understand everything. You just need to stay with it. I started reading that small book every day. Not for hours, just for a few minutes. Sometimes I understood only a little. Sometimes I understood nothing. But I did not stop. I did not run away. I stayed. And something very interesting started to happen. The same words came again, and again, and again. At first, they looked strange. Then they looked familiar. And then they started to feel normal. This is how the brain learns. Not by force, but by repetition. Not by pressure, but by presence. Many learners make one big mistake. They think they need to understand everything from the first day. They think learning is fast. They think they must be perfect. But this is not true. Learning is slow. Learning is soft. Learning is a journey of many small steps. And here is a powerful truth. Listen carefully. You do not become good at English by knowing more words. You become good at English by seeing the same words many times. This is a retention moment. This is important. It is not about more. It is about again. When I stopped chasing new words and started staying with simple words, my English began to grow. Slowly, quietly, naturally. That book became my daily space. A place where I was not judged. A place where I could be slow. A place where I could repeat the same sentence many times. Sometimes I read one page 5 times. Yes, 5 times. And you know what? Every time I read it, I understood more. Not because the book changed, but because I changed. This is the magic of reading. It does not just give you English. It builds your brain. Another powerful moment. Listen to this. The day you stop rushing is the day you start improving. You do not need to be fast. You need to be consistent. That book was not special. It was simple, but my connection with it made it powerful. I started to feel sentences, not just read them. I started to hear the voice in my head. I started to imagine the story. And slowly, English was no longer outside me. It was inside me. And this is what will happen to you. If you take one simple book and you stay with it every day, without fear, without pressure, just with patience, your English will begin to change. You will not see it in one day, maybe not even in 1 week, but one day you will read a sentence and you will understand it without thinking. And that moment will surprise you. You will smile. You will feel proud. And you will say, I can do this. So today, I want you to make one small decision. Do not fight English anymore. Sit with it. Stay with it. Read it like a friend. Because this book, this simple book, is not just teaching you English. It is teaching you how to believe in yourself again. And that is where everything begins. Chapter 2. One book, one world. There was a time when I believed I needed many books to learn English. I thought more books meant more learning. I thought if I read 10 books, I would become better faster. But the truth was very different. I was starting many books and finishing none. I was jumping from one story to another. One day I read this, the next day something else. My mind was always new, but never deep. And slowly, I started to feel confused. I knew many words, but I could not use them. I saw many sentences, but I could not speak them. It felt like I was collecting pieces, but never building anything real. Maybe you are doing this too. You open one book today, tomorrow, another. You watch videos, you try apps, you listen to different voices. Everything feels new, but nothing feels strong. Your mind becomes full, but your English stays weak. And then you think, why am I not improving? The answer is simple. You are moving too much. You are not staying long enough in one place. Then, one day, I made a quiet decision. I said, I will choose one book, and I will stay. Not many books, not 10 books, just one book. One world. At first, it felt boring. Yes, I will be honest. Reading the same book again felt slow. I thought, I already read this, but I continued. I read it again. And something very strange began to happen. The book did not feel the same anymore. The same words, but deeper meaning. The same sentences, but clearer understanding. The same story, but stronger connection. This is the second secret. Depth is more powerful than variety. When you stay with one book, your brain starts to relax. It stops fighting new information. It starts recognizing patterns. It starts building memory. And slowly, your mind creates a world, a small English world, that feels safe. This is important. When learning feels safe, the brain learns faster. I remember reading one simple story again and again. At first, I was just reading words. But later, I started seeing images. I could imagine the people. I could feel the emotions. I was not translating anymore. I was understanding directly. That moment, that small moment, was very powerful. Because that is the moment when English becomes natural. Here is a strong thought for you. You do not learn a language by touching many things. You learn it by staying close to a few things. This is a retention moment. One book can be enough if you go deep. Many learners think they need new content every day. They think learning must always feel fresh, but real learning is repetition. Real learning is returning. Real learning is staying with something until it becomes part of you. The book you choose becomes your teacher, your partner, your daily space. It becomes a small world, where you can grow without fear. And something beautiful happens when you stay with one book. You start noticing small details. Words you did not see before, sentences you did not understand before. And now, suddenly, they make sense. Not because you tried harder, but because you gave your brain time. Time is your biggest teacher. You cannot rush understanding. You cannot force fluency, but you can create space for it to grow. Another powerful moment. Listen carefully. The more you return, the more you remember. And the more you remember, the more confident you feel. Confidence does not come from knowing everything. It comes from knowing something well. That one book gave me confidence. It gave me a feeling of control. I knew the story. I knew the sentences. And slowly, I started speaking them. First in my mind, then softly with my voice. Then with more strength. I was not afraid anymore because I was not guessing. I was repeating something I already knew. This is how speaking begins, not from new words, but from familiar sentences. So many learners wait for the perfect moment to speak. They think, when I know more, I will speak, but that moment never comes. Because they keep moving. They never stay. But when you stay with one book, your mind becomes stable. Your words become clear. Your sentences become strong. And then speaking becomes easy. You do not need 10 books. You need one book and a deep connection with it. So today, I want you to do something simple. Choose one book. A very easy book. A book that does not scare you. A book that feels light. And stay with it. Read it again and again. Not for speed, not for perfection, but for feeling. Let that book become your world. Because inside that one small book, there is a big change waiting for you. And once you feel that change, you will never go back. Chapter 3. Read like a child, not like a student. There was a moment when I realized something very simple, but very powerful. Children do not learn language like students. They do not sit with rules. They do not worry about grammar. They do not stop after every word. They do not feel shame when they do not understand. They just listen. They repeat. They enjoy. And slowly, the language becomes part of them. That day, I asked myself a deep question. Why am I learning like a student when I can learn like a child? Before that moment, I used to read English books like a test. I would open a page and immediately start checking words. I would stop again and again. I would think too much. I would translate every sentence into my language. My reading was slow, heavy, and full of pressure. And because of that, I was not enjoying it. And when you do not enjoy something, your brain closes. You feel tired. You lose energy. You want to quit. Maybe you are doing the same thing. You open a book, and your first thought is, do I understand everything? And if the answer is no, you feel bad. You feel like you are failing. But listen carefully. This is not how language works. Language is not a test. Language is a feeling. Children do not understand everything, but they still move forward. They hear the same words again and again. They connect words with actions. They feel the meaning without thinking too much. And one day, they start speaking. So I made a new decision. I said, from today, I will read like a child. That decision changed my experience completely. When I opened my book, I stopped worrying about every word. I stopped using the dictionary again and again. I started reading in a flow. Even if I did not understand some words, I kept going. I trusted the story. I trusted my brain. And something beautiful started to happen. I began to understand more, without stopping. This is the third secret. Understanding does not always come from stopping. Sometimes it comes from continuing. When you read like a child, your brain starts connecting ideas naturally. You see the whole picture, not just small parts. You feel the story. You feel the emotion. And slowly, the words begin to make sense. There is a powerful moment I want you to remember. If you stop too much, you break the magic. Reading is like listening to music. If you stop the music every few seconds, you cannot feel it. But if you let it play, your heart understands it, even without thinking. English works the same way. One day, I was reading a simple story. I did not understand every word, but I continued. And suddenly, I understood the situation. I understood what the character was feeling. I did not know every word, but I knew the meaning. That moment surprised me, because I realized something very important. You do not need to understand every word to understand the message. This is a strong retention moment. Meaning is bigger than words. When you read like a student, you focus on words. When you read like a child, you focus on meaning. And meaning is what builds your English. Another beautiful change happened. I started enjoying reading. It did not feel like work anymore. It felt like a story, like a journey, like something I wanted to do, not something I had to do. And when you enjoy something, you stay longer. You come back again. You build a habit. This is how improvement becomes fast. Not because you push yourself, but because you return every day with a smile. Another powerful thought, listen to this. The more relaxed you are, the faster you learn. Stress blocks learning. Relaxation opens learning. So when you sit with your book, do not sit like a student in an exam. Sit like a child with a story. Sit with curiosity. Sit with openness. Sit with patience. Let the words come to you. Let the sentences flow. Let your brain do its work quietly. You do not need to control everything. Trust the process. Trust repetition. Trust feeling. And slowly, you will notice a change. You will start recognizing patterns. You will start understanding without translating. You will start thinking in English, even if it is just small thoughts. And that is a big step, because thinking is the beginning of speaking. So from today, change your approach. Do not read to prove something. Do not read to be perfect. Read to feel. Read to enjoy. Read like a child. Because inside that simple, relaxed way, there is a powerful transformation waiting for you. And once you feel that transformation, you will never read the same way again. Chapter 4. The Power of Reading the Same Page. Again, there was a time when I thought repeating the same page was a waste of time. I believed that progress meant moving forward. New page, new words, new story. I thought if I stayed on one page, I was not improving. I felt slow. I felt stuck. And like many learners, I was always chasing something new. But deep inside, I was not growing. I was only moving. Maybe you feel this too. You want to finish the book fast. You want to see new pages. You want to feel like you are doing something big. So you read quickly, you turn the page, you move on. But then, after some time, you forget everything. The words disappear. The sentences feel new again. And you start from zero. Again and again. Then one quiet day, something changed. I read one page, and I did not turn it. I stayed. I read it again, and again, and again. At first, it felt strange. My mind said, "You already read this," but I ignored that voice. I stayed with the page, and slowly, something powerful started to happen. The words became clearer. The sentences became smoother. The meaning became deeper. The page was the same, but my understanding was growing. This is the fourth secret. Repetition is not slow. Repetition is power. When you read the same page again, your brain relaxes. It is not fighting new information. It starts recognizing patterns. It starts remembering. It starts connecting. And this is where real learning begins. The first time you read a page, you see the surface. The second time, you see more. The third time, you start to feel it. The fourth time, it becomes familiar. And then, one day, it becomes yours. This is a powerful moment. What you repeat becomes part of you. Most learners never reach this point because they do not stay long enough. They touch many pages, but they do not own any page. They see many words, but they do not feel any word deeply. But when you repeat, you build something strong inside your mind. Remember reading one simple page many times.
At first, I understood maybe 50%, then 60, then 70. And one day, I read it without stopping, without thinking, without fear.
That moment felt different. I was not learning anymore. I was using English. This is a retention moment. Fluency is not speed. Fluency is familiarity. When something feels familiar, your brain moves fast. When something is new, your brain becomes slow. So if you want to become fast, you must first become familiar. And repetition creates familiarity. Another beautiful thing happens when you read the same page again. You start noticing small details. A word you missed before, a structure you did not see, a feeling in the sentence that you did not understand earlier. Your eyes become sharper, your mind becomes deeper, and slowly, you begin to see English, not just read it. There is another strong truth you must understand. Learning is not about how much you read. It is about how deeply you read. One page read 10 times is more powerful than 10 pages read one time. Let that sink in, because this one idea can change your entire journey. When you stop rushing and start repeating, you move from confusion to clarity. And clarity gives confidence. Confidence gives courage. And courage helps you speak. Many learners say, "I am afraid to speak." But the real problem is not fear. The real problem is weak memory. When you do not remember sentences, you feel lost. You do not know what to say. But when you repeat a page many times, those sentences stay in your mind. They become your support. They become your voice. And then, speaking feels easier because you are not creating from nothing. You are using something you already know. Another powerful moment. Listen carefully. The more you repeat, the less you forget. And the less you forget, the more you trust yourself. Trust is everything. When you trust your English, you speak. When you doubt your English, you stay silent. So repetition is not just about learning words. It is about building trust inside you. So from today, do something simple but powerful. Take one page, read it slowly, then read it again and again. Do not rush. Do not feel bored. Stay with it. Let that page become your teacher. Let those sentences become your friends. Because inside that one page, there is a quiet power. A power that grows slowly, but strongly. And one day, you will read that page and smile. Because you will realize you are no longer the same person who struggled before. You have changed. And your English has changed with you. Chapter 5. Speak what you read. Turn words into voice. There was a time when I only read in silence. My eyes moved on the page, but my voice stayed quiet. I believed reading was enough. I thought if I read more, I would speak better one day, but that day did not come. I knew many sentences, but when I tried to speak, nothing came out. My mind was full, but my mouth was empty, and that made me feel stuck. Maybe you feel this too. You read a lot. You understand a little. But when you try to speak, you stop. You wait. You search for words. You feel slow. You feel nervous. And then you say, "I know English, but I cannot speak." The problem is not your ability. The problem is your habit. Reading gives you input. Speaking needs output. And one day, I understood something very simple, but very powerful. If I want to speak, I must use my voice. Not later, not someday, but now. So I made a small change, a simple one. When I read my book, I started speaking the sentences. At first, it felt strange. My voice was slow. My pronunciation was not perfect. I felt a little shy, even when I was alone. But I continued. I read one sentence, and I spoke it. Then I read it again, and I spoke it again, and again. And slowly, my voice started to follow my mind. This is the fifth secret. Reading becomes powerful when it becomes sound. When you speak what you read, something special happens inside your brain. Your eyes, your mind, and your mouth start working together. You are not just learning, you are practicing real language. At first, it may feel uncomfortable, but that is a good sign, because discomfort means growth. I remember sitting in my room, reading a simple page out loud. My voice was not strong. Sometimes I made mistakes. Sometimes I stopped. But I did not quit. I kept going. And then one day, something changed. The sentences came out more easily. My voice became smoother. My fear became smaller. And I realized something important. Speaking is not a talent. Speaking is a habit. This is a strong retention moment. If you do not speak, you do not build the skill. Many learners wait for confidence before speaking. But confidence does not come first. Action comes first. Confidence follows. Another powerful truth. Listen carefully. You do not learn to speak by thinking. You learn to speak by speaking. So when you read your book, do not keep it silent. Give it a voice. Let the words come out. Let your mouth feel the language. Even if your voice is slow, even if your pronunciation is not perfect, it does not matter. What matters is movement. When your mouth moves, your brain learns faster, and something beautiful starts to happen. The sentences you read again and again become your sentences. You start remembering them. You start using them. You start feeling them. And slowly, your voice becomes natural. Another important moment. At first, you copy. Later, you create. When you speak what you read, you are copying good English. You are learning how sentences are formed, how words connect, how ideas flow. And after some time, your brain starts creating new sentences using the same patterns. This is how fluency grows, not from grammar rules, but from repeated patterns. I remember repeating one sentence many times. It was simple, very simple, but I spoke it again and again. And later, I used that same structure in a new way, without thinking, without effort. That moment felt powerful because I was not just repeating, I was using. This is the goal, to move from reading to speaking to using. Another deep thought. Listen to this. Your voice is your bridge to fluency. Without voice, your learning stays inside. With voice, your learning comes alive. So do not stay silent, even if you feel shy, even if you feel unsure. Speak in your room. Speak softly. Speak slowly, but speak, because every word you say builds your confidence. Every sentence you repeat builds your strength. Every small effort moves you forward. So from today, make a new habit. Read and speak. Write one line and say it. Repeat it and feel it. Let your voice become part of your learning, because this simple action, this small change, can transform everything. And one day, you will notice something beautiful. You will speak without fear. You will speak without stopping. You will speak like someone who believes in their voice. And that voice will carry you forward. Chapter 6. Feel the meaning, not just the words. There was a time when I only looked at words. I saw English as a list of small pieces. One word, then another word, then another. I tried to understand each word like a machine. I stopped again and again. I translated everything. And because of that, my reading was slow, and my understanding was weak. I was working hard, but I was not feeling anything. Maybe you are doing the same. You open a book, and your eyes search for meanings. You see a word, and your mind asks, what does this mean? You look for translation. You think too much. And in that moment, you lose the sentence. You lose the story. You lose the feeling. But language is not just words. Language is feeling. One day, something changed inside me. I was reading a simple story. A character was sad. I did not understand every word. But I could feel the sadness. I could see it in the situation. I could imagine it. And suddenly, I understood the moment, without knowing every word. That moment opened my mind, because I realized something very important. Meaning does not live only in words. Meaning lives in the situation. This is the sixth secret. If you feel the meaning, you do not need to understand every word. This idea is very powerful. Many learners think they must understand everything. But this creates pressure, and pressure blocks learning. When you focus only on words, your mind becomes small. But when you focus on meaning, your mind becomes open. I started reading differently. I stopped asking, what does this word mean, and started asking, What is happening here? That one small change made a big difference. Now, when I read, I imagine the scene. I see the people, I feel the emotion, I connect with the story, and slowly, the words start making sense on their own. This is how children learn. They do not learn words first. They learn situations first. They see, they feel, they connect. And then the words become clear. You can do the same. When you read your book, do not stay inside your head. Go into the story. Be inside it. Live inside it. If someone is happy, feel the happiness. If someone is afraid, feel the fear. If someone is speaking, hear the voice in your mind. This makes your learning real. There is a powerful moment I want you to remember. If you only read with your eyes, you will forget. But if you read with your feelings, you will remember. This is a retention moment. Emotion creates memory. The more you feel, the more you remember. That is why stories are so powerful. Stories are not just information. They are emotion. And emotion stays in the brain longer. I remember one simple sentence from a story. It was not special, but the feeling in that moment was strong. And because of that, I never forgot it. That is how you build strong English. Not by collecting words, but by connecting with meaning. Another important truth. Listen carefully. Understanding is not always clear at first. Sometimes you understand slowly. Sometimes meaning comes after many readings. And that is okay. You do not need to rush understanding. Give your brain time. Trust the process. Trust the feeling. When you read again and again, your understanding becomes deeper. The same sentence starts to feel different. It becomes clearer. It becomes natural. And one day, you read it, and you just know. No translation, no thinking, just knowing. That is a beautiful moment. That is when English becomes part of you. So from today, change your focus. Do not chase every word. Chase the meaning. Do not stop every time. Flow with the story. Let the words come to you through the situation, because when you feel the meaning, you unlock the language. And when you unlock the language, you begin to think in it. And when you think in English, you are no longer a learner. You are a user, and that is the real goal. Chapter 7. Small sentences, big power. There was a time when I believed I needed long, perfect sentences to speak good English. I thought real English meant big grammar, big words, and long ideas. So when I tried to speak, I waited. I waited to build the perfect sentence in my mind. I tried to make it correct. I tried to make it beautiful. But something always went wrong. I stopped in the middle. I forgot words. I became nervous. And slowly, I started to speak less and less. Maybe you feel this too. You want to speak, but your mind says, wait, make it perfect. And while you are waiting, the moment is gone. The chance is gone, and you stay silent. But one day, I discovered something very simple and very powerful. Fluency does not start with long sentences. Fluency starts with small sentences. That day, I stopped trying to speak big. I started speaking small. I looked at my book. I saw simple lines, very small sentences. I am here. She is happy. He is walking. At first, they looked too easy, too simple. I thought, this is not enough. But I tried something new. I started speaking these small sentences again and again, and something interesting happened. My voice became faster. My fear became smaller. My confidence became stronger. This is the 7th secret. Small sentences create fast confidence. When you use small sentences, your brain does not feel pressure. It does not feel lost. It knows what to say. It moves quickly. And that speed gives you power. I remember standing alone in my room and saying simple things. I am reading. I feel tired. This is my book. These were not big sentences, but they were real. They were clear, and they were mine. And slowly, those small sentences started connecting. I am reading a book. I am reading a book every day. I am reading a book every day because I want to improve. Do you see what happened? Small sentences became bigger naturally. This is a powerful moment. You do not start big. You grow big. Most learners try to jump too fast. They try to speak like advanced speakers, but their brain is not ready, and that creates fear. That creates silence. But when you stay small, you stay strong. Another important truth. Listen carefully. Clarity is more important than complexity. It is better to say a small sentence clearly than a big sentence with fear, because communication is not about showing how much you know. It is about expressing what you feel, and small sentences do that perfectly. Another retention moment. Simple English is powerful English. Do not think simple means weak. Simple means clear. Simple means usable. Simple means real. I started using small sentences from my book every day. I repeated them. I changed them. I played with them. I am happy. I am not happy. I am very happy. I am a little happy. This small change created many new sentences, and my brain started understanding patterns. This is how fluency grows, not by learning many new things, but by using one thing in many ways. Another powerful moment. One sentence can create 10 sentences, and 10 sentences can create confidence. Confidence leads to speaking. Speaking leads to fluency. It all starts small. When you read your book, look for small sentences. Do not ignore them. Do not think they are too easy. Those small sentences are your foundation. Without foundation, nothing stands strong. Use them. Speak them. Repeat them. Make them yours, and something beautiful will happen. Your brain will become faster. Your words will come easier. Your fear will go away, because you are no longer trying to be perfect. You are just trying to be clear, and clarity gives you freedom. Freedom to speak, freedom to try, freedom to grow. So from today, change your goal. Do not try to speak big. Try to speak simple. Try to speak real. Try to speak now. Because in those small sentences, there is a big power waiting for you. And once you feel that power, you will never stay silent again. Chapter 8. Build your daily reading ritual. There was a time when my learning had no rhythm. Some days I studied a lot. Some days I did nothing. One day I felt motivated. The next day I felt tired. My learning depended on my mood. And because of that, my progress was not stable. I was moving, but not growing. Maybe this feels familiar to you. You start strong. You feel excited. You read for 1 hour. You promise yourself, I will do this every day. But then, life happens. You feel lazy. You feel busy. You skip 1 day, then 2 days. Then suddenly, the habit is gone. And then comes a dangerous thought. I cannot stay consistent. But listen carefully. The problem is not you. The problem is your system. One day, I understood something very simple and very powerful. I did not need more motivation. I needed a small, daily ritual. So I created one. Not big, not difficult, just simple. Every day, I read my book for a few minutes. Same place, same time. Sometimes morning, sometimes night, but every day I showed up. At first, it felt small, almost too small. I thought, is this enough? But I continued. I trusted the process. And slowly, something changed. My brain started expecting it. My body started remembering it. Reading became natural, like brushing my teeth. This is the 8th secret. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. You do not need to do a lot. You need to do it daily. Even 5 minutes every day is stronger than 1 hour once a week, because daily action builds a habit, and habit builds transformation. There is a powerful moment I want you to feel. When something becomes a habit, it becomes easy. No more thinking, no more fighting, no more waiting. You just do it. That is the goal. To make English part of your life, not a special task. I remember sitting with my book every day. Some days I felt good. Some days I felt tired. Some days I did not understand much. But I still showed up. And that simple action, that small discipline, started changing me. My reading became smoother. My understanding became deeper. My confidence became stronger, not in 1 day, but over time. Another strong truth. Listen carefully. You do not see growth every day, but growth is happening every day. This is a retention moment. Just because you do not feel improvement does not mean you are not improving. Learning is quiet. It grows under the surface, like a plant. You water it every day. You do not see change immediately, but one day it becomes strong. Your English is the same. Every time you read, you are building something inside your brain. Even if it feels small, even if it feels slow, it is working. Another powerful moment. The habit is more important than the result. Do not focus on how much you improve today. Focus on showing up today. Because when you show up every day, the result will come. Without stress, without force. I also learned something important about time. You do not need to find time. You need to create a small space. Maybe 5 minutes in the morning, maybe 5 minutes before sleep. That is enough. Start small, stay consistent, and let it grow. When your reading becomes a daily ritual, something beautiful happens. English stops feeling foreign. It starts feeling normal. It becomes part of your day, part of your thinking, part of your life. And that is when real change begins. Because language is not something you visit sometimes. Language is something you live with. So from today, make a simple promise. Not a big promise, just a small one. I will read every day. Even if it is 1 page. Even if it is 1 paragraph. Even if it is just a few lines. Show up, stay with it. Trust it. Because this small daily ritual will build something powerful inside you. And one day, you will look back and realize you did not just read a book. You changed your life. Chapter 9. When you start thinking in English. There was a quiet moment, a very small moment, when something changed inside me. I was not reading, I was not studying, I was just sitting, and suddenly, a simple thought came in English, not in my language, not translated, just directly in English. It was a small sentence. Very simple, but it felt powerful. Because for the first time, English was not something I was trying to use. It was something that was happening naturally. Maybe right now, this feels far from you. Maybe you still translate everything in your mind. You see a sentence in English, and your brain quickly changes it into your language. Then you understand. Then you try to answer, and again you translate back into English. This process feels slow. It feels heavy, and it makes speaking difficult. But listen carefully. This is not a problem. This is just a stage. Every learner starts here. But you do not stay here forever. One day, something shifts. And that shift begins with your reading habit. When you read the same book again and again, when you speak the sentences, when you feel the meaning, your brain starts building direct connections. It stops using your first language as a bridge. It starts understanding English in English. This is the 9th secret. Thinking in English is not a skill you force. It is a result of repetition. You cannot sit and say, "Now I will think in English." It does not work like that. Thinking changes slowly, quietly, without you noticing. I remember reading my book many times. The sentences became familiar, the patterns became clear, and slowly, those same patterns started coming into my thoughts. I am tired. I need water. This is easy. These were not big sentences, but they were direct. They came without translation. And that moment felt different. Because I was no longer learning English. I was using English. This is a powerful moment. The day you think in English is the day your fear becomes smaller. Because thinking is private. It is safe. There is no pressure. No one is watching you. No one is judging you. And when your thoughts become English, your speaking becomes easier. Because speaking is just thinking out loud. This is a retention moment. If you can think it, you can say it. But if you always translate, you create delay. You create confusion. You create fear. So how does this change happen? It happens when you spend time inside English, when you read daily, when you repeat sentences, when you speak softly to yourself, when you feel the meaning. Your brain starts creating a new space, a small English space. At first, it is very small, just a few words, just a few thoughts. But slowly, it grows. And one day, you notice something. You are not translating everything. You are just understanding. And that is a big step. Another powerful moment. Listen to this. Do not wait to think in English perfectly. Start thinking in small pieces. Look at something around you. Say in your mind, "This is my phone." Look at your room. Say, "This is my room." Feel tired. Say, "I feel tired." These are simple thoughts, but they are powerful because they train your brain to connect English with your real life. And that is the goal. To make English part of your daily thinking, not just something you study, but something you live. I started doing this every day. Small thoughts, simple sentences, no pressure. And slowly, my mind became faster. I did not need to translate everything. I could feel the meaning directly. And when I spoke, it felt more natural. Not perfect, but real. Another strong truth. Listen carefully. Fluency is not about perfect grammar. Fluency is about natural thinking. When your thoughts are clear, your words follow. When your thoughts are blocked, your words stop. So do not focus only on speaking. Focus on thinking, because thinking is the root. Speaking is the result. So from today, start a small practice. Think in English. Not all day. Just small moments. Simple thoughts, easy sentences. Do not judge yourself. Do not correct yourself too much. Just think. Because every small thought is building your fluency. And one day, you will notice something beautiful. You will understand without translating. You will think without trying. You will speak without fear. And in that moment, you will realize English is no longer outside you. It is inside you. Chapter 10. You are not the same person anymore. There comes a moment, a quiet, surprising moment, when you realize something has changed inside you. Not in a loud way, not in a big, dramatic way, but in a soft, deep way. You open your book, and it does not feel heavy anymore. You read a sentence, and you understand it faster. You speak a small line, and your voice does not shake like before. And in that moment, you pause, and you feel something new. You feel progress. Not perfect, not complete, but real. Maybe at the beginning of this journey, you felt lost. You felt slow. You felt like English was too far away. You tried before. You failed before. You doubted yourself. You thought, maybe I cannot do this. And that thought stayed with you for a long time. But look at you now. You stayed. You read. You repeated. You spoke. You felt. You did not run away this time. And that is why something has changed. This is the 10th secret. You do not become fluent in one moment. You become a new person through many small moments. Every day you opened your book. Even when you did not feel like it, you were building something. Every time you read the same page again, you were growing. Every time you spoke a simple sentence, you were becoming stronger. And slowly, without noise, without pressure, your English started living inside you. There is a powerful moment I want you to hold in your heart. You are not starting from zero anymore. You have something now. Maybe it feels small, but it is yours, and that matters. I remember the day I looked back at my journey. I thought about the time when I could not understand anything, when even simple sentences felt difficult. And then I looked at myself now. I was reading, I was thinking, I was speaking, not perfectly, but confidently. And that difference, that small, but real difference, made me proud. This is a retention moment. Progress is not about perfection. It is about direction. You are moving forward, and that is enough. Another powerful truth. Listen carefully. The person who keeps going always wins. Not the fastest, not the smartest, but the one who stays. And you stayed. You chose one book. You stayed with it. You read like a child. You repeated pages. You spoke the sentences. You felt the meaning. You built a daily habit. You started thinking in English. These are not small things. These are powerful steps, and they have changed you. Now, something important happens here. This is not the end. This is the beginning, because now you know the path. You know what works. You know how to grow, and you can continue with another book, with another story, with the same method, and your English will keep improving, step by step, day by day. Another deep moment. Listen to this. You do not need a perfect plan anymore. You have a working system, and that system is simple. Read, repeat, speak, feel, stay. That is your power. That is your path. So do not go back to confusion. Do not go back to fear. Stay with this way, because it works, and it will keep working. Now I want you to take a moment. Think about your journey. Think about where you started. Think about how you felt. And now think about where you are. Even if the change feels small, it is real. And that is something to respect, something to continue, something to build on. Because one day, you will look back again, and you will not just see progress, you will see transformation. You will see a version of yourself who was afraid, and a version who is strong. And you will smile. Because you did not give up, you stayed, and that made all the difference. Thank you, truly thank you, for staying with me until the end of this journey. Not everyone stays. Not everyone listens this deeply, but you did. And that says something powerful about you. It means you care. It means you want to grow. It means you are ready to change. Today, we did not just talk about a book. We talked about a new way of learning. A softer way. A smarter way. A real way. You saw that English is not something to fight. It is something to live with. You saw that small steps are not weak. They are the strongest steps. And you saw that progress is not loud. It is quiet, but powerful. So when you close this video, do not go back to old habits. Do not go back to fear. Take one simple book. Sit with it. Stay with it. Read it. Speak it. Feel it. And trust the process. Because your future English is not far away. It is being built, one small page at a time. Subscribe for more motivational audiobooks and stories in easy English. Share this video with someone who needs it. Save this for a time when you feel lost or tired.